All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Crew Show. We're here at Chipotle in the city getting ready to go into 95.7 The Game for a little show with Mark Willard from 2 to 6. Check us out on 95.7 The Game. Let's talk a little bit about the Warriors. And, of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue you're going to find in Northern California. Get the brisket chili. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Tell them that Larry Krueger sent you. And this video is also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. The Krug Show is partnered with Underdog Fantasy this football season. They give you a way to play alongside your favorite football teams all season long. I've yet to make my picks for this week, but I will. And you can, of course, enter the same as me, or you can make your own picks. Sign up using the link in the description. Use that promo code KRUG, K-R-U-E-G, and they'll match you up to $100. All right, let's talk a little 49er football. Niners coming off the bye week. They're in Jacksonville on Sunday taking on the Jaguars. This is as close as it gets to a must-win game for the Niners. They've lost 3 in a row. They don't want to lose 4 in a row. They've got 2 games against Seattle looming. They got a trip to Philly looming. They got the Ravens coming to town on Christmas. That's going to be a very tough game. 49ers cannot afford to lose this game to Jacksonville and slide any further back. In a lot of ways, they have to hit the reset on their season. And I think Kyle Shanahan understands that. So what is Kyle going to do? What changes can the Niners make this week to jumpstart their whole team and get themselves going in the right direction? They need to do something. All right, let's go through the options. They're not going to bench Brock Purdy. He's their guy. So the people calling for Sam Darnold, forget about that. They ain't going to Sam Darnold. The one thing I would love to see them do is they're using Christian McCaffrey a ton in the backfield. I'd like to see them use him as a wide receiver. Flex him out. Get him out in space. Isolate him against a defender in open spaces and throw him the football. He's taken a ton of hits, a ton of physical abuse. Ease that abuse a little bit by using him as a receiver and a little bit less as a running back. This also will enable you to get J.P. Mason on the field. You got to get Mason some touches. He's big, he's fast, he's explosive, he's young, he's healthy, and he's fresh. Use him. He had that great 26-yard touchdown run against the Cowboys. He hasn't played since. I don't know that he's touched the ball since. So get J.P. Mason on the field, flex out Christian McCaffrey. That's one. I would like to see them go more to Brandon Ayuk earlier in games and try to get him into a rhythm early. I mean, he is the guy that really, gets the most separation of all their receivers. I'd also like to see some gadget plays involving Debo. And the way I want to see them use Debo is I'd like to see them get Debo the ball in his hands where he's got 2, 3, 4 steps to run before he gets contact. Don't run him in these tight windows. He's got ordinary hands. He's got ordinary separation ability. And his best thing is he builds up a head of steam and nobody wants to tackle him. So that means an end around. That means a reverse. That means, even the hitch screens, you're still getting him flat-footed out in space. He's got to get 2 or 3 steps rolling before he really gets moving and gets, Debo with 3 steps is like the last guy anybody wants to tackle. Nobody wants to tackle Debo Samuel if he gets 3 steps of movement. So get him moving and get him the ball while he's moving. And if you do, I think that's big play is waiting to happen. On the offensive line, there's no Aaron Banks this week. He's got turf toe. John Feliciano is going to start at left guard. I don't know that there's anything that you can really do, against Jacksonville as far as your offensive line. But when Banks gets healthy, I think I'd like to see Feliciano maybe get some run at center. He's a bigger, more physical guy. You have to start opening run lanes inside for your running backs so that you can run between the tackles and in the A-gaps. The Niners are really struggling in the games they've lost this year to get any kind of run game going. Obviously, the big change this week is going to be Chase Young, the addition of Chase Young outside. And Young is a big-time player. He's having a very good year. He's got 5 sacks. He would be the Niners sack leader today if he had been a Niner all season. I'd like to see them just rush their front four and see if they can, drop 7 into coverage, but make sure that coverage is tight. Whether you're playing man or zone, hug up on these receivers, challenge Jacksonville. The Jaguars have Ridley. They've got some speed at wide receiver, but I think you got to really challenge them at the line and see if your defensive line can get home. The one thing about Trevor Lawrence is he's got a big arm. He can throw it downfield. But if you look at the numbers, he's getting the ball out very, very quickly. So since that's what they want to do, hug up on the coverage, take chances in coverage, make them prove that they can throw it over your head. I would also activate Jalen Graham. Graham is fast, he's instinctive, he hits hard. He would be a guy that I would like to have up on game day. Another guy I'd like to see a little bit more of is Jair Brown. He's playing exclusively on special teams. I'd like to see him play from scrimmage. I'm not that impressed with Hufanga and Tayshaun Gibson and the job the safeties have done for the Niners this year. And Jair Brown is a player. He's physical, he'll hit, he can run, he can cover. In some ways, I think he's more ideally suited to take Hufanga's spot in the box than he is to take Gibson's spot in the deep middle. But I got to find a way to get Gibson on the field. He's a hitter. I think he's a guy that, you really got to wrap. Now that Dre Greenlaw is a little fresher off of 1 week of the bye, maybe he can be more of a force in the run game. But I think the number one change that I would make if I'm Kyle Shanahan is I got to start playing complementary football. And what I mean by that is run the ball, dominate the clock, keep your defense on the sideline as much as possible. Use your offense to protect your defense. You don't quite have the same depth of talent that you had a year ago on defense. You're not as deep up front. The linebacking core is deep, but they're young, so essentially it's almost like you don't have depth there. And, even in the defensive backfield, until Luter and Womack can get back on the field, they're a little thinner than they've been on all 3 levels of their defense. What does that mean? That means your defense has to be protected. You have to protect your defense. And how do you protect your defense? You protect your defense by playing ball control. So that's really what I want to see this week. That's the number one change they need to make, is they have to play complementary ball and protect their defense. I want to see more Mason. Heck, I'd love to see more Danny Gray. I'd love to see them put a little bit more speed on the field. I'd like to see them blitz a little bit less and try to get home with their front four. But whatever they do, they've got their coverage has got to be tight, and you got to expect the ball coming out in 2.5 seconds because the numbers say that's what's going to happen in this game. But the biggest concern or the biggest adjustment, play complementary football, protect your defense, dominate the time of possession. All right, thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Underdog Fantasy for being the sponsor of this video. Check that link in the description. Use the promo code KRUG, and they'll match you up to $100. And thanks to all you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.